It took exactly 47 seconds for Derek Collins to destroy his career, his reputation, and his store's future. That's how long it took him to refuse service to 78-year-old William Hayes, loudly announcing that scruffy old men weren't welcome in his establishment. The other customers watched in stunned silence as the elderly veteran, wearing his faded Air Force jacket and leaning on his walker, quietly left the store without his groceries. What none of them knew was that William Hayes wasn't just any veteran. He was the man who had trained half the pilots at nearby Randolph Air Force Base, and his former students never forgot the lessons he taught them about honor, respect, and taking care of your own. 45 minutes later, when 6 F-16 jets screamed overhead in perfect formation and a convoy of military vehicles surrounded Harold's Market, everyone realized that some disrespect comes with consequences that can be seen from space. William Hayes had been making this same trip every Saturday morning for 6 years. At 78, every step required effort, but he maintained his independence with quiet dignity. His routine was simple: bread, soup, same 3 items, same exact change, same polite nod to whoever worked the register. This morning he wore his faded Air Force jacket with its visible patches, name tape, rank insignia, squadron emblems telling the story of a life dedicated to service. Most people in town recognized the quiet old man who always said please and thank you. But Derek Collins was new to Harold's Market, hired 3 months ago as store manager. At 32, he was ambitious, implementing what he called customer appearance standards to attract a better class of shopper. William made his way through his routine: bread, soup, milk from the dairy case. As he approached checkout, only 2 lanes were open despite the Saturday rush. He chose the shorter line and waited patiently. The cashier, Jennifer, began scanning his items when Derek Collins appeared beside her, his eyes focusing on William with barely concealed distaste. "Jennifer, step aside. I'll handle this." William looked up, confused. "Sir, is there a problem?" Collins examined William's faded jacket, worn jeans, scuffed shoes, and bent walker frame. His expression hardened. "Yes, there's a problem. This is a family establishment, and we maintain certain standards for our customers' appearance. Your presentation doesn't meet those standards." The words hit like a physical blow. William felt the stares of other customers, heard the sudden quiet in nearby checkout lanes. "I'm sorry, son, but I'm not sure I understand." Collins's face flushed with irritation. "I mean that scruffy old men in dirty clothes aren't the kind of customers we want. You're making other customers uncomfortable. I'm asking you to leave." The silence was deafening. Jennifer stood frozen, her face pale. Other customers stared in disbelief. A mother with 2 children looked horrified. William absorbed the words with dignity, without flinching, with strength that came from knowing who he was regardless of others' opinions. "I understand," William said quietly. He placed a $5 bill on the counter. "For your trouble, keep your money. Just leave." William nodded once and turned his walker around, beginning the journey back to the front. Each squeak seemed to echo in the sudden quiet. As he reached the automatic doors, he paused to pull out his phone and scrolled to a contact. "Randolph Air Force Base, 12th Flying Training Wing. Captain Mitchell speaking." "Mike, this is Colonel Hayes." Immediate change in tone. "Colonel, sir, how can I help you?" "Pass a message to the boys. Tell them their old instructor just got a reminder about standing up for what's right. Tell them I could use backup." Captain Mitchell had been William's student 15 years ago, learning more than flying: leadership, integrity, unbreakable military bonds. "Sir, what's your location?" "Harold's Market and Cedar Ridge." "And Mike, make it memorable." "Copy that, Colonel. We'll take care of it." At Randolph Air Force Base, 12 miles away, Captain Mitchell immediately called Major Sarah Chen, current commander of the 12th Flying Training Wing. "Major, we have a situation involving Colonel Hayes. He was publicly humiliated at a grocery store. Some manager refused to serve him, called him a scruffy old man." Major Chen's blood pressure rose. William Hayes was a legend, the man who had trained more successful pilots than anyone in wing history. "How many of his former students do we have on base today?" "About 40 pilots who trained under him, plus support staff." And ma'am, the Thunderbirds are scheduled for training this afternoon. Colonel Hayes trained at least 3 of their current pilots. Major Chen smiled grimly. Cancel the afternoon training. Get me phone numbers for every pilot Colonel Hayes trained within 200 miles. I want them here in an hour. The calls went out like wildfire. Flight schedules were rearranged. Training exercises postponed. The most important call went to Nellis Air Force Base, where Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez answered. Rodriguez here. Viper, this is Major Chen at Randolph. Colonel William Hayes has been disrespected by some civilian. We're planning a response. Immediate silence, then emotion-filled voice. What about the old man? Colonel Hayes saved my life twice. Where do you need us? How fast can you get to Texas? Give us 2 hours. At exactly 11:42 a.m., 45 minutes after William Hayes left Harold's Market, the first sound reached Cedar Ridge, a low rumble growing steadily louder until everyone could hear multiple jet engines approaching. 6 F-16 Fighting Falcons flew in perfect diamond formation, so low the sound was overwhelming. They made one pass, banked sharply, and came around even lower. What the hell? Collins muttered from his office. But the jets were just the beginning. Military vehicles arrived, Humvees with Air Force markings, a transport bus, a black government sedan. They arranged themselves with mathematical precision in the parking lot. 43 active-duty Air Force personnel in dress blue uniforms emerged simultaneously, forming perfect ranks. At their head stood Major Sarah Chen, her bearing commanding, flanked by officers wearing expressions of professional determination. Civilian customers stopped and stared. Some pulled out phones, others watched in stunned silence as the formation came to attention with a single sharp command. The automatic doors opened, and Major Chen led her formation into the store. 43 pairs of military polished shoes clicked against the linoleum in perfect synchronization, echoing like a drumbeat through the store. They marched directly to the checkout area where Derek Collins stood frozen with growing horror. Major Chen called a halt, and the formation came to attention with drill instructor precision. Mr. Collins, Major Chen said, her voice carrying command authority and barely controlled fury. I'm Major Sarah Chen, commanding officer of the 12th Flying Training Wing at Randolph Air Force Base. Collins's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. What? How can I help you? You can start by explaining why you refused service to Colonel William Hayes this morning. The word colonel hit Collins like a physical blow. I didn't know. He didn't look like what, Mr. Collins? He didn't look like a man who dedicated 35 years defending your freedom. He didn't look like someone who trained over 2. He didn't look like a war hero who flew combat missions over Vietnam and earned the Distinguished Flying Cross. Collins could feel 43 pairs of eyes on him like laser beams. Ma'am, if you had known what? That he deserved basic human decency, or just that he had enough friends in the military to make your life complicated. Major Chen stepped closer. Colonel Hayes is 78 years old. He's a widower who makes one grocery trip each week. He's never caused trouble, never raised his voice, and you decided his appearance wasn't good enough for your store. I was just trying to maintain standards. Standards? Let me tell you about standards, Mr. Collins. These men and women understand what it means to serve something greater than themselves. They understand sacrifice, honor, and loyalty, and when someone disrespects their family, there are consequences. What do you want me to do? Major Chen smiled coldly. First, you'll personally apologize to Colonel Hayes publicly, in front of the same customers who witnessed your disrespect. Second, Colonel Hayes receives lifetime VIP treatment at this store. Third, you'll make a public statement acknowledging your error. And if I refuse, Mr. Collins, those jets that flew over, just the ones immediately available. These 43 personnel, just those who could get here in an hour. Colonel Hayes trained over 2,000 pilots. Many are still active duty. In reserves, became generals, work for defense contractors, some in politics. You've insulted an entire network of military professionals who consider that man family. Collins felt sweat despite the air conditioning. I'll do whatever you want. Excellent. Colonel Hayes is on his way back now. ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, William Hayes arrived in his full dress uniform, Air Force Blue with all ribbons and decorations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Medal with oak leaf clusters, and Purple Heart. The uniform was decades old but maintained with deep respect. As William approached, the 43 military personnel formed two lines, creating a pathway from parking lot to entrance. Major Chen walked out to meet him, came to attention, and saluted with precision born from years of practice and genuine respect. "Colonel Hayes, sir. It's an honor." William returned the salute despite his age and walker. "Major Chen, I appreciate you and your people coming out today. Sir, there's nowhere else we'd rather be." William began his walk between the lines of military personnel. As he moved, each one came to attention and saluted, their feet coming together in unison like rifle shots. The civilians watching began to understand what they were witnessing. This wasn't just about one old man being disrespected. This was about family, loyalty, bonds forged in service to something greater. William reached the entrance and paused, turning to face the gathered crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing isn't about me. It's about the principles these men and women defend. It's about treating people with dignity regardless of appearance. It's about understanding that service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It becomes part of who you are forever." He paused, looking at the faces watching him. "I don't want anyone to lose their job over this morning. I don't want punishment beyond what's already been experienced. I just want everyone to remember we're all part of the same community, and we all deserve basic human respect." With that, he walked into the store, followed by Major Chen and the formation. Inside, Derek Collins waited by the checkout counter, pale and shaking. When he saw William in full dress uniform, surrounded by 43 personnel, the full weight of his mistake hit him. "Colonel Hayes, I owe you an apology." William stopped, leaning on his walker, expression calm and dignified. "Son, we all make mistakes. The measure of a man isn't whether he makes mistakes, it's what he does after he realizes he's made them." Collins nodded, tears forming. "Sir, I was wrong, completely wrong. I judged you based on appearance and treated you with undeserved disrespect. I'm sorry. Apology accepted. Sir, is there anything I can do to make this right?" William considered. "Yes. Remember this feeling, the shame of realizing you've treated someone badly. Make sure it never happens again, not just to veterans, but to anyone who walks through those doors. Everyone deserves dignity, son. Everyone." Collins nodded vigorously. "Yes, sir. I understand." William turned to the formation. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your support today. It means more than you know, but I think it's time to return to your duties. You've made your point well." Major Chen stepped forward. "Sir, with your permission, we'd like to escort you through your shopping today." William smiled, his first genuine smile all day. "That's very kind, Major, but I think I can manage 3 items on my own." "Yes, sir, but we'd consider it an honor." And so, with military precision, 43 active-duty Air Force personnel escorted one elderly veteran through his weekly grocery shopping. They maintained formation as he selected bread, soup, and milk. They stood at attention as he paid, Collins refusing payment and insisting Colonel Hayes's groceries would be complimentary for life. When shopping was complete, the formation escorted William to his car. As he got behind the wheel, Major Chen approached. "Sir, if you ever need anything at all, you have my direct number." "Thank you, Major, but I think I'll be just fine from here on out." William drove away, leaving behind military personnel, store employees who would never forget, and a community that had learned something important about respect, dignity, and the unbreakable bonds between those who serve. The military convoy departed as precisely as it had arrived, leaving Harold's Market to return to normal, except normal had been permanently redefined. Derek Collins would spend the rest of his career ensuring every customer, regardless of appearance, was treated with dignity and respect. The incident made national news within hours. Video of William Hayes walking between saluting military personnel went viral within days. But for those who witnessed it firsthand, it became something more than a news. It became a reminder that some bonds can't be broken by time or distance, that respect is earned through service and sacrifice, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. Every Saturday morning for the rest of his life, William Hayes continued his routine visits to Harold's Market. Same 3 items, same polite demeanor, same quiet dignity. But now, instead of indifference or disrespect, he was greeted with genuine warmth and gratitude, because some uniforms, once earned, are never really taken off. They become part of who you are, woven into your character, visible to those who know how to look. And in Cedar Ridge, Texas, everyone learned how to look. Air medal with oak leaf clusters and the Purple Heart. The uniform was decades old, but had been maintained with the kind of care that only comes from deep respect for what it represents. As William approached the store, something remarkable happened. The 43 military personnel who had been standing at attention inside the store began to emerge. They formed 2 lines, creating a pathway from the parking lot to the entrance, a corridor of honor leading directly to the door. Major Chen walked out to meet William, and when she reached him, she came to attention and saluted with the kind of precision that comes from years of practice and genuine respect. "Colonel Hayes, sir. It's an honor." William returned the salute, his hand moving to the correct position despite his age and the walker he leaned on. "Major Chen, I appreciate you and your people coming out today. Sir, with respect, there's nowhere else we'd rather be." William nodded and began his walk toward the store. As he moved between the lines of military personnel, each one came to attention and saluted. The sound of their feet feeding together in unison echoed across the parking lot like rifle shots. The civilians watching from the sidelines began to understand what they were witnessing. This wasn't just about one old man being disrespected. This was about family. This was about loyalty. This was about the kind of bonds that are forged in service to something greater than yourself. William reached the entrance to Harold's Market and paused. The automatic doors opened, but he didn't go in immediately. Instead, he turned to face the crowd that had gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying despite his age, "what you're seeing here today isn't about me. It's about the principles that these men and women in uniform swear to defend. It's about treating people with dignity regardless of their appearance or circumstance. It's about understanding that service to our country doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It becomes a part of who you are forever." He paused, looking out at the faces watching him. "I don't want anyone to lose their job over what happened this morning. I don't want anyone to be punished beyond what they've already experienced today. I just want everyone to remember that we're all part of the same community, and we all deserve to be treated with basic human respect." With that, he turned and walked into the store, followed by Major Chen and the formation of military personnel. Inside, Derek Collins was waiting by the checkout counter, his face pale and his hands shaking slightly. When he saw William in his full-dress uniform, surrounded by 43 active-duty personnel, the full weight of his morning's mistake finally hit him. "Colonel Hayes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I owe you an apology." William stopped in front of him, leaning on his walker, his expression calm and dignified. "Son," William said, using the same term he'd used that morning, but with a different tone now. "We all make mistakes. The measure of a man isn't whether he makes mistakes, it's what he does after he realizes he's made them." Collins nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "Sir, I was wrong. Completely wrong. I judged you based on your appearance, and I treated you with disrespect that you didn't deserve. I'm sorry." "Apology accepted," William said simply. "Sir, is there anything I can do to make this right?" William considered the question for a moment. "Yes, there is. I want you to remember this feeling, the shame of realizing you've treated someone bad, and I want you to make sure it never happens again. Not just to veterans, but to anyone who walks through those doors. Everyone deserves dignity, son. Everyone." Collins nodded vigorously. "Yes, sir. I understand." William turned to address the formation of military personnel who had accompanied him into the store. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your show of support today. It means more to me than you know. But I think it's time for you to return to your duties. You've made your point and you've made it well." Major Chen stepped forward. "Sir, with your permission, we'd like to escort you through your shopping today." William smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him all day. That's very kind, Major, but I think I can manage 3 items on my own. Yes, sir, but we'd consider it an honor. And so, with military precision that would have been comical in any other circumstances, 43 active-duty Air Force personnel escorted one elderly veteran through his weekly grocery shopping. They maintained formation as he selected his bread, his soup and his milk. They stood at attention as he paid for his purchases, Derek Collins refusing to accept any payment and instead insisting that Colonel Hayes's groceries would be complimentary for life. When the shopping was complete, the formation escorted William back to his car. As he got behind the wheel, Major Chen approached his window. "Sir, if you ever need anything at all, you have my direct number." "Thank you, Major, but I think I'll be just fine from here on out." William drove away, leaving behind a parking lot full of military personnel, a store full of employees who would never forget what they'd witnessed, and a community that had learned something important about respect, dignity, and the unbreakable bonds between those who serve. The military convoy departed as precisely as it had arrived, leaving Harold's Market to return to normal, except that normal had been permanently redefined. Derek Collins would spend the rest of his career at the store ensuring that every customer, regardless of appearance or circumstances, was treated with dignity and respect. The incident made national news within hours. The video of William Hayes walking between the lines of saluting military personnel became viral within days. But for those who were there, who witnessed it firsthand, it became something more than a news story. It became a reminder that some bonds can't be broken by time or distance, that respect is earned through service and sacrifice, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. And every Saturday morning for the rest of his life, William Hayes continued his routine visits to Harold's Market. Same 3 items, same polite demeanor, same quiet dignity. But now, instead of indifference or disrespect, he was greeted with genuine warmth and gratitude from everyone who recognized him. Because some uniforms, once earned, are never really taken off. They become part of who you are, woven into the fabric of your character, visible to those who know how to look for them. And in Cedar Ridge, Texas, everyone learned how to look.